Good morning, Dancers. It's Tuesday. So a few hours ago, I thought of something that I was going to talk about in my video today, and I thought I should write that down or I'm going to forget it before I make the video. But I was right in the middle of something, and so I couldn't stop to write it down, so I thought I will write it down in a minute, or I'm sure I will remember it. I didn't write it down, and I don't remember it. So let's see. What do I have to talk about? Nellie, you said you were interested in book recommendations and stuff, and I don't know if I've ever, I feel like in the course of the last 5 years, I must have at some point have mentioned Morrow Lindbergh, but I don't think I've ever really talked about her very much. She was a fascinating woman. She was married to Charles Lindbergh, but that's like the least interesting thing about her, in my personal opinion, anyway. She learned to fly, and she learned she became a very good navigator and radio operator, and she flew a lot with Charles. She went with him on survey flights. They would do things like they would try to find new flight routes for what was then the brand new commercial aviation industry, and she wrote a couple of books about that. But I don't think she ever really thought of herself as an aviator. She thought of herself as a writer, and that's, I mean, really, that is what she was. She was a writer, first and foremost. So as I say, she wrote a couple of books about her flights with Charles. North to the Orient is one, and Listen the Wind is another. She wrote some other kind of odds and ends. She wrote something called Earthshine, a novel called Dearly Beloved. She also wrote a book called Gift from the Sea, which I guess you would call like inspirational, but I think that's kind of a misleading term because that makes it sound like it's religious in nature. She also published, within her lifetime, she published 5 volumes of diaries and letters, and after she died, her daughter finished the last volume, so there are 6 volumes of diaries and letters. And those are my favorites of all of the things of hers that I've read, and I've read a lot of her stuff at this point. They are, I think, the most her. I think they're the most evocative and the most compelling. The first book of diaries and letters is called Bring Me a Unicorn. I just very recently read The Steep Ascent, which is a fictionalized account of something that actually happened to her while she and Charles were flying. They almost crashed going over the Alps. I think it was the Alps. And so she wrote this fictionalized version of that trip. And it's very interesting because of all of the stuff that I have read of hers. It is the most like her volumes of diaries and letters. I really enjoyed it a lot. So that would be good if you could find it. It's kind of hard to find. It's been out of print for a long time. I really love her writing a lot. I think her voice is very beautiful and very interesting, and I think she was an incredibly interesting woman. And I think you might like her writing too, if you have not already read it. So I still haven't managed to remember what the thing was that I was going to talk about originally. So I guess I'm done for now, and I will see you guys next week, when hopefully I will have remembered what the thing was. Don't forget to be awesome.